Shalom. First, I'd like to give all praise unto Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, and double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and honors to your brothers out there on the highways and the byways teaching this word in all sincerity and truth. And this video is just going to go into the mark of the beast and how they're going to implement the mark of the beast at first to different sectors of society, and then eventually they're going to create a crisis big enough, which is more than likely the total collapse in the economic system, to where they can chip everybody, man, from every area of society, man, to bring it all together. Now, we know that RFID has become ubiquitous, and so has computing, so it's now invasive. It's now a part of every industry, every sector of life, man, involves computing and RFID now. So what they're going to start, and then the reaction of the people, and then they provide the solution, which is already set up from the beginning, which in this case the solution is going to be the RFID chip. Now, one of the major crises that's going on at the moment in Europe and also in America, you got the refugee crisis, and also you got the illegal immigrant crisis, which are basically almost the same thing. Okay, and in Europe it's been manufactured, you know, and the same thing with America. You got in Europe, you got a lot of these refugees have been coming in for years now, but now, especially with the thing in Syria, you got a lot of Muslim refugees coming from the Middle East as well, and they're running up into Europe, and also some of them, they want to take them over to the United States of America. But then all at the same time, with all the hell that's going on in South America, tragedies and what so forth, and the viewpoint that the streets in America are paved with gold due to Hollywood, you got a lot of illegal immigrants that will be coming up into America through Mexico, man. And you best believe with the whole situation in Venezuela, you got a whole heap of Jake from Venezuela that are making their way up into America right now. So these are all crises, man, that Esau has set up for the purpose that he's going to bring in the RFID chip as a solution to control that situation. Now I want to play these two quick clips, and then we're going to get into some information, so just bear with me. I'm trying to make this as short and precise as possible.
This refugee surge has not...
To Europe, tens of thousands of migrants currently at the Turkish border trying to get in. There's already 2.5 million migrants in Turkey, and Turkey says we are at full capacity. Katie Hopkins is with us again, Daily Mail columnist, joining us from Big Ben in the background, so it must be from London. Now, Katie, where are they going to go? It's got to be that they're going to come to Europe. Europe doesn't want them. What's going to happen when the migration starts and they hit Europe's border? What happens?
This is really where the kind of pressure cooker lid is being turned up now. So we have bombing going on in Syria. These Syrians are migrating to the border of Turkey, and Turkey has shut that border. Turkey says no more. They've already received the number of migrants, the same number of migrants as people that live in London. So a whole bunch of London has already arrived into Turkey, and Turkey's saying it just can't cope. Meanwhile, we've given €3 billion to Turkey in order to build schools, to accommodate migrants, to let them in. And Turkey is saying, no, we're not opening our border. I mean, for us, the fear here is that as soon as they do open that border, and as soon as that weather starts to warm up, these guys are going to be in inflatables, in those small boats. They're going to be crossing the Med, and they're going to be into Greece and headed our way. Now, Turkey are so cross about this. Turkey don't want to let them in, and Turkey said, if you don't give us more cash, we're going to send them your way anyway. We're going to let them through to Greece.
They're going to come, or they're going to try to get into Europe. What is Europe going to do? Employ the Navy throughout the Mediterranean? Put the soldiers on some border? Is that what they're going to do?
Yeah, at the moment, I would say, honestly, there's no solution being offered whatsoever. The only idea so far is to send a border force to Greece and to stop them going beyond Greece. But how exactly that economy is going to deal with that level of migration is completely, beyond anyone's solution so far. Ultimately, the person that sits at the heart of this, for me, is Angela Merkel, the mother of all migrants. She stood there and she said, migrants come, you are all welcome. And that really started this journey into Europe. And if it wasn't for her, I don't think we'd be in the problems that we're in. But we are really in a mess right now, and no one has any answers. And another 100,000 Syrians are marching towards Turkey and towards our shores.
What a situation. Now, I know you're a Trump supporter, one of the very few Trump supporters in Europe. Do you think that maybe Trump's going to get some more supporters as this migrant crisis gets worse?
Yes, I think Europe is a perfect template, a perfect kind of example. If you want a little case study, if you want to look at somewhere and go, we don't want to end up like them, I would suggest Europe is the perfect model right now. We have stories of rape being suppressed. We just had a small boy, a 10-year-old, who went swimming and was raped by migrants. Those stories are springing up all over the place. And it's not that I'm trying to perpetuate fear, and I know some people are good people, but if you open all your doors, all your borders, I think you only end up with trouble. And I think there's a lot to be said for Trump and his wall. He may not build a wall, but talking about firm action, I think is really something. If we didn't have the English Channel, which is our Mexican wall, we'd be in more trouble than we're already in. So I'm a big Trump supporter. I wish him well, and I like his bombastic kind of positive, let's defend this country. I like that about him.
We can tell, Katie Hopkins, we can tell which side you're on. We got it. Katie Hopkins, everybody, joining us again from London. We appreciate it. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
Pat, that explosion of refugees is already straining weak economies in Europe, and the crisis could eventually spill over here to the U.S. as well. That has some in Congress balancing concerns about refugees against the possibility of terrorists sneaking into the U.S. Dale Hurd has the story.
The UN says close to 1 million migrants from Africa and the Middle East are expected to enter Europe by the end of the year. And the White House says some of them will be coming to the U.S. America's annual worldwide refugee quota is about 70,000. But now there's pressure from Europe to raise that number considerably.
No decisions have been made about future resettlement going, past this fiscal year. But I do think it's reasonable to expect and to assume that there will be additional resettlements going into next year. What that's going to look like, how many, I don't have a number for you.
Today, European Commission head Jean-Claude Juncker announced a plan to distribute 160,000 migrants and refugees across 22 nations in Europe. And he stressed that it was wrong to be concerned that the refugees were mostly Muslim.
There is no religion, there is no belief, there is no philosophy when it comes to refugees and to those who are fleeing.
This Syrian refugee about to leave Turkey says the danger in Syria is also big because there is war. In Turkey, we cannot find a job. A quick death is better than a slow one because if we die at sea, we die quickly. But what is very disturbing to some observers is that according to the UN, 72% of the migrants entering Europe are men. Refugees typically move as families. Terrorism experts have warned that ISIS has a plan to send fighters to Europe. About the White House plan to bring some of the migrants to the U.S., the Republican chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee said the White House has a responsibility to protect the American people and our country. Terrorists have exploited the refugee process to sneak into our country in the past. And officials have warned my committee that we lack the on-the-ground intelligence in Syria needed to confidently vet individuals for resettlement. This surge is beginning to remind some of a famous French novel from the 1970s, The Camp of the Saints, both praised as brilliant by critics and panned by some as xenophobic. It predicted that Europe would fall when Africans and Asians suddenly flooded the continent, and Europeans no longer had the will to exist, to maintain their own identities. This refugee surge has not reached that level, but it is a crisis that many critics warn will certainly change Europe and could change America as well. Dale Hurd, CBN News. Reach that level.
Yeah, you're damn right. It's going to change shit because they're going to start bringing in that mark of the beast. So I just want to jump through this. First of all, this is all being orchestrated by the power elites. Micah 2:1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. Because the elites control these governments, they control these NGOs, they control the media. Okay, they control these different industries and sectors, man. And they're the ones that are going to bring this about. but it's all through the spirit and the power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai to fulfill prophecy. Now, what I want to show you is the whole idea of chipping immigrants or illegal immigrants or whoever has been being pushed out there for a long time. Now, let me just try and pinpoint these articles. So that's from 2006. Christie recently. Right, so going back to 2006, LiveScience had an article saying proposal to implant tracking chips in immigrants, and I'm gonna just read it real quick. Salakia. Scott Silverman, chairman of the board of VeriChip Corporation, was implanting companies' RFID tracking tags in immigrant and guest workers. He made the statement on national television on May 16th. Okay, so that's that. That's already being pushed out there in the public domain. Christie suggests microchipping immigrants. New Jersey governor, and this is 2015, by the way. New Jersey Governor Christie, a Republican candidate for president, has recently suggested government take ideas from the private sector to handle the problem or crisis of illegal immigration. Christie has suggested the government hire Frederick W. Smith, founder of FedEx, to design a system that tracks immigrants the way FedEx tracks packages. I told you the RFID technology is now within every sector and area of society, man. It's ubiquitous. To design a system that tracks immigrants the way FedEx tracks packages, Christie expanded on the idea at a recent campaign. And let me say this, if I haven't said it already, man, the apostles and elders, beginning with Apostle Tahar, said that they're going to bring in this mark of the beast, and they're going to start with certain sectors and groups of people first, and then ultimately they're going to bring it to everyone. All right. Now that's that. Now there was another guy. Where is it? Right, presidential candidate suggests microchips for Syrian refugees. Transhumanist Party candidate Zoltan Isvan says implanting technology in those fleeing unrest in the Middle East could allow us to aid the humanitarian effort and protect our borders from terrorists. You see, problem, reaction, solution. Now this is a thing that I saw here. It says, why don't we just microchip and track the refugees coming into the country? And then this fool here tried to give a reason why not. He said it'll cost a boatload of money to develop and produce the microchip safe enough for human implant at low cost. Nope, they've already developed them, and they have microchips safe for human implant. If you got a microchip safe to implant into an animal, you got one safe to implant into a human, man. There's no fucking difference, okay? So they've already got that developed, and to produce it at low cost is not an issue. Anything mass produced can be produced to low cost. All right, so you know, this guy don't know what he's talking about. Employ medical which cost is not an issue to the elites. Employ medical professionals to carry out implants. Nope, you don't need medical professionals to implant a chip in a crisis. All you need is a guy with some basic training, a 2-3 day course, and he could start doing it. All you need is a medical professional present to supervise. Set up locations for refugees to receive the implant safely and cleanly. That's not an issue. Employ data experts to keep track of all the stuff going on. You don't need that now. You got supercomputers with algorithms. So this guy, I mean, obviously, I don't know, he claims to be an international student from Zimbabwe studying in the US. He needs to keep studying. It's not an issue. They're ready. They're ready. They got everything they need. Now, real quick, I want to get this one from the... Now, this happened quite a while ago. I think it was 30,000 a number. Thousands of Muslim migrants disappear from German camps. So these migrants are coming into Germany and they're disappearing within the country. So that's a security issue. So it says the UN says microchip them, which really means everybody in the US will be next. Okay, and I'll put this link in and you can read through it. It's good. UN Agenda 2030 calls for universal ID for all people. So this is a good article. You can read through it and see what time it is, man. It's all being set up. The crisis is all being set up to bring in the mark of the beast. That's going to be the solution. Okay, and when they do it, people, like I said, people ain't gonna have nothing to say about it. Now, you might say, oh, they ain't got all the systems in place and rare tear, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is from Accenture Consulting. UNHCR Identity Management System uses biometrics to better serve refugees. Alright, so it says the Office of the United Nations, which is, the United Nations is the framework for the One World Government. High Commissioner for Refugees was established on December 14, 1950 by the United States General Assembly. The agency is mandated to lead and coordinate international access to protect refugees and resolve refugee problems worldwide. Crisis. Its primary purpose is to safeguard the rights and well-being of refugees. Yeah, sure. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees is rolling out a breakthrough biometric identity management system that rapidly registers, deduplicates and verifies the identity of refugees, ensuring that the right people receive assistance where and when they need it. Alright. And like I said, you can check this out. It's a BIMS has quickly delivered impressive outcomes, enrolled over 120,000 refugees living in 9 camps in Thailand in 3 months, ordered by family groups, nationality and family size, processing an average of 3,000 enrollments a day at its peak. You know, and they also says they did 100,000 in Chad, of 2,500 enrollments a day. So they're already practicing these different systems for getting these people ready to be chipped, man. They've already got the systems. The only thing they need to introduce is to actually implant the chip into their hands when they're doing it. All right. It says the new system had to meet 3 objectives: rapidly determine what benefits and service a person needs, secure identities, that's where the chip comes in, and improve documentation to help long-time refugees find permanent solutions. All right, so they're already, getting that sim all prepared and working out, tweaking it all up. Now, even going back to the crisis that happened in 1994, just show you how long they've been practicing for this. All right, these different systems, identification and tracking system. It says that in the middle of the 1994, thousands of refugees from Haiti and Cuba tried to sail to the USA. The United States government immigration officials didn't want to simply let them in. The refugees could apply for official refugee status, but they couldn't just show up. The officials picked up as many refugees as they could while they were at sea and took them to refugee camps outside the USA to be processed. They would get refugee status if the United States Immigration Service decided they would be persecuted if they went home. Otherwise, they were sent back. View the refugee background, blah, 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 blah. Now it says the United States ended up with refugee camps filled with people. They had to make a decision about each and every one of them. They had to know who was who and what their stories were. To make things harder, many of the refugees didn't speak English. The United States needed a sophisticated information system to control the situation. Now bear in mind, this is back in 1994. Okay, they used a system called DMPITS, Deployable Mass Population Identification and Tracking System. To start with, the military had just used color-coded plastic bracelets, originally designed to use with prisoners of war. These bracelets had a printed label giving some information about the person, but some of the refugees started changing their labels or throwing the bracelet away, some pretending they were people who had already been accepted as refugees by the United States. So they were giving them these bracelets, but the thing is with them bracelets is, they just like the same thing with a credit card or anything else. It can be changed and doctored or removed, thrown away. The refugees were not just a component in the information system in the same way the object is. They could decide they didn't want to fit into the system the way the United States wanted them to, and to do something about it. They could try to subvert the system. So what Esau's basically doing with the implantable RFID chip, he's making it impossible for you to subvert the system, to come outside of the system. Okay, once you take that chip, you're in the system, you're trackable, you're traceable, there's nothing you can do. So the United States wanted to come up with a more effective way of controlling information about the refugees. How could they make sure they kept track of who everyone was, no matter what the people themselves wanted? That's where DMPITS came in. DMPITS was much harder for the refugees to subvert because it used much more sophisticated technology. it used their 3 different ways of identify each refugee. Microchip each refugee had to wear a digital fingerprint and a video image. So that's biometrics. But guess what? They're going to make it where you ain't going to be wearing the chip. You're going to have it inside of you, man, for tracking purposes. Okay? And there you see the chip there with the reader. So they look, man, they've been perfecting this system for a while now, man. Okay? And the implant in the refugees is coming. Just wait, it's gonna come. It might come this summer. They say, look, we're gonna start. They might have already done it, but I mean, when they really bring it out there in the open, we're gonna start implanting these refugees with these chips, man. You know, and they're gonna come with for their safety, you know, to help them, also for our safety. If some of them get terrorists, if they take the chip, because guess what? Even these terrorist suspects, what you always find out is that they were following the guy around, but he still managed to do some damn terrorist attack. So it's going, hey, well, we couldn't surveil them as good as we wanted to. If we chip them, we can. So it's all problem, reaction, solution, and it's all leading up to that mark of the beast, man. Which, that being said, let's get Revelation 13 and 16, which is the core of the matter, man. Revelations 13 and 16, it says, and he calls of all, both small and great, whether you're famous or not famous, or a man of honor in the society or not, rich and poor. So whether you're, you're just working class, or whether you're upper middle class or whatever, free and bond, free meaning you have the so-called liberty to walk up and down the streets. Bond meaning you're a prisoner or an illegal immigrant to receive a mark, which the word there in the Greek is charagma, which means something inserted or carved into in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell. So you're not going to be able to make transactions in this man's society, which everything in this society is a transaction. You walking up and down the street is a transaction. Okay, you have to have you have to be authorized to do that. You know, a transaction, a key card. If there's a door and you can't get past that door without your key card, that's a transaction. You go and transactions don't just have to be money, man. Okay, when you get on the bus, that's a transaction. When you go and get in an airplane and you show them your passport and they click that, that's a transaction right there. Do you know what I'm saying? So it really incorporates anything in the society. In fact, if you look up the word transaction, it's just a computer process. A computer process is a transaction. Transaction doesn't have to be money. All right. Let's get that real quick. Salakia. It's damn flash. Come on, man. Salakia. Transaction. Alright, a transaction does so you ain't gonna be able to, basically they're gonna make it where you ain't gonna be able to do a damn thing within this man's system, because the entire system is gonna be keyed in to, you're gonna have to have that RFID chip. If you want to go work, you're gonna have to have the RFID chip. If you want your rations, you're gonna have to have your RFID chip. If you want to walk down the road, you have to have an RFID chip, or you're gonna be stopped on the spot. Okay, you ain't gonna be allowed. See, that's Satan. It just ain't fucking working, man. But anyway, you can look that up. A computer process is also known as a transaction. All right, get rid of that. Right, anyway, let's just continue on. Save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So you ain't gonna be, the system is being set up where the RFID technology is going to be utilized in every area, sector of society, and you ain't gonna be able to deal with healthcare. You ain't gonna be able to deal with getting your groceries. You ain't gonna be able to do a damn thing in the society if you ain't gonna have that chip, man. And that's the bottom line. You get me? So hey, if you receive that mark, man, you're gonna be destroyed, pursuant to Revelations 14 and 9. So with that, I say shalom.